About a month ago, there was a blog that I came across. I'm kind of a fan of trying to keep track of the tech industry on cloud sites like TechCrunch and a variety of other sources, and I came across a blog that I found very interesting. The name of the blog caught my eye because this was shortly after Steve Jobs passed. And the name of the blog was i-stalked-steve-jobs. Did anyone read that blog? I doubtful if you did. So good. This will be a new story. So I saw that and immediately caught my eye, and I clicked on the link and went to read the blog. And it was an interesting story. It was written by a woman who, at this point in time, was maybe in sort of the twilight of her career. She actually works in investment management and helping funds in the Valley invest in startup companies. But she had a long history in technology, including being what you would call a serial entrepreneur. And she was relating a story that took place about 23 years ago. I guess this would have been in late 80s or early 90s. She had just left Microsoft and was embarking on starting a company of her own. And she was somewhat frustrated, truth be told. She felt like she'd been at Microsoft, for some period of time, and she was just, in some ways, disillusioned. She felt like, technology should be changing the world at a far more rapid rate than it was. And she felt like she spent her last 10 years working at Microsoft, slaving behind, writing code that seemed to produce an endless stream of bugs that had to be fixed and could never fully, all of them, be fixed. And that while, the Office products were interesting, fundamentally they weren't really transforming the world in a significant way. They were nothing more than electronic tools, and she was just simply frustrated. So she left Microsoft and she started going to start this company. And she decided that the person that she needed to talk to was Steve Jobs. Because she was fascinated with the rise and emergence of Apple. And she saw in her mind Stephen was someone who was a visionary, and she wanted to spend some time with him. So she started calling. She called once a week, increased that to once a day, started calling twice a day, no response. She started sending letters. She sent a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6, a dozen letters. Then she went to FedEx. She started sending FedExes to his office. After the 7th FedEx, she got a call from Steve Jobs' secretary. And the secretary said, Steve Jobs would like to speak with you. Hang on a minute. Stephen comes on the line. In his characteristic, charming way, Steve Jobs said, okay, I don't know what the hell you want. Let's end this. She said, well, I'd like to speak with you. He said, come by my office next week. You've got 5 minutes. Bring a timer. So she goes and she takes that pretty literally. She goes and buys, these egg boiling timers like you used to cook with, right? You set it to 5 minutes and it's tick, 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 ding, so she brought that. And she shows up at Steve Jobs' office and she sets the egg timer on his desk when she's introduced to him and turns to 5 minutes. And he says, you've got your 5 minutes, start asking. So she started asking a series of questions. Her real intention was just to try to get him to open up. And she was looking for inspiration. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, but she was just wanting to hear some inspiration. And she said that she asked just the right questions, and the questions aren't really that relevant, but that Mr. Jobs started to open up and talk about his vision of why technology mattered and how it was going to change the world. And he talked about, basically, what was essentially the iPad and iPhone and iPod products that would culminate some 20 years later. He talked about how technology and the role of technology would emerge to create a new kind of impact on our lives. The ability for us to be connected to each other, to find information, share information, communicate and collaborate in a way that was impossible to define 20 years ago, but he could clearly see. And she said that when the timer went off and the ding happened, she stood up to leave, and Stephen said, "Sit down, I'm not finished with you." For 45 more minutes, he laid out in stunning clarity what would ultimately transform itself 20 years later in the iPad and iPhone products that you see from Apple today. And Apple today, it vacillates between number one and number two most valuable company in the world. Folks, that's vision. That's vision, that's foresight, and that's determination. And I feel like telling that story, in part because Steve-Jobs passed away this year, and we lost probably one of the most important visionaries in our industry that perhaps we may all know in our lifetime. But I'm also telling that story because there's nothing more important. There's nothing more important than looking beyond the mist of today and trying to figure out what it is that we need to do to be successful in the future, and having the insight, the fortitude, and the commitment to see that vision through. I'm excited about the vision that we've shared with you today. This is not something that we've cooked up just to come here to talk to you about. This is something we passionately believe in. I know that I passionately believe in it. And I can stand before you today with a very stunning revelation of my own. I turned 50 this year. I've worked for 30 years in my career. And I'll tell you, I never dreamt, I would never have dreamed in a million years that I would be standing before any organization at this point in my life, this far into a career, and say to you that I absolutely believe the most exciting days of my career, whatever's left of it, is before me and not behind me. And that is a stunning place to be. We have an incredible journey, and we're going to share it together. I look forward to success in 2012. Thank you. Keep up the good work, and let's enjoy the cultural